February 15th, as demonstrators around the world marched against the impending war. In London, 1 million people came to protest Tony Blair's policy on Iraq. It was the largest protest rally Britain had ever seen. People had come from all over the country.
Birmingham.
From Bedford.
Cumbria.
Sheffield.
It did identify real depth of feeling amongst ordinary people. It was people from all parts of the political spectrum, of all ages, all social backgrounds. It wasn't just people who one would expect to see on a demonstration.
We've never ever marched before. I've never been on a march before.
After this, it'd be something else. It'd be another war after war. We've got to stop it.
Blair made a strategic error as regards the British public, which was to continue to say until very, very late in the day that no decision had been taken. Now, by this stage, there were pictures appearing on the 6 o'clock news of British troops in the Gulf. People became suspicious. They thought the war was being pulled over their eyes.
If one country needs a regime change at the moment, it's Britain.
That day, Blair defended himself at a Labour Party meeting.
I do not seek unpopularity as a badge of honour. But sometimes it is the price of leadership, and it is the cost of conviction.
The mass march through London had precisely no effect on Blair's strategy, except that it made him more determined to go out and persuade people that he was right.
And as you watch your TV pictures of the march, just ponder this. If there are 500,000 on that march, that is still less than the number of people whose deaths Saddam has been responsible for. If there are 1 million, that is still less than the number of people that died in the wars that he started.
In the House of Commons, rebels from Blair's own Labour Party, once loyal supporters, forced a vote aimed at stopping him from going to war.
I proposed the amendment, which simply said, the case for war is as yet unproven.
Are we seriously saying that because Saddam Hussein has complied to 70% rather than 100% in terms of cooperation, that is a cause for going to war?
There are times when the issues are so serious, when there are matters of life and death at stake, when you think, sorry, I've got to do what I believe is right here.
Over the next 6 hours, there was an extraordinary outpouring of opposition from all parties.
The next time a large bomb goes off in a western city, how far did this policy contribute to it? The next time some Arab or Muslim state topples and is replaced by extremists, how far did this policy contribute to it?
If an immoral and unjust war takes place, the thousands of human casualties are the result and innocent blood is spilled, then the person who is responsible for arguing that position will one day answer to a much higher authority than this House of Commons.
The decision has been made, was made, not in Downing Street, not in the Foreign Office, it was made in the White House.
The loathing of Bush is extraordinary. The hatred of Blair for siding with Bush is almost as great. He is an incredibly unpopular figure in the Labour Party, and I think it is true that a lot of what is presented as moral opposition to the war is actually political opposition to Bush.
Order! Order!
No one had anticipated the size of the revolt.
The ayes to the right, 199. The noes to the left, 393.
Blair had won the vote, but it had revealed a new political weakness in the Prime Minister. 122 of his own MPs had voted against him, the biggest parliamentary revolt in over a century.
The realization dawned on just about everybody that this whole episode could actually bring down the Prime Minister, a man who had ruled the country with almost untrammeled power for 5 getting on 6 years, who had won Labour a second landslide.
That night, Blair knew 2 things. He knew if he went to war without a second UN resolution, he would be leading a deeply divided country. But he also knew he had promised George Bush he would take his country to war.
He didn't waver for one moment in doing that and pursuing a course that he thought was right. And that is a test of leadership. If he couldn't do that, if he wasn't up to that, then it wasn't worth him remaining in the job, and he might as well have gone. But he isn't like that.
Blair asked a reluctant Washington to make one last effort at the UN. The president went public, challenging the members of the Security Council to support a second resolution, saying Saddam had failed to disarm.
Yes, we'll call for a vote. We want to see people stand up and say what their opinion is about Saddam Hussein and the utility of the United Nations Security Council. And so, you bet, it's time for people to show their cards, to let the world know where they stand when it comes to Saddam.
U.S. strategy was to get the 9 basic votes, and then it would get down to a diplomatic shootout on the floor of the Security Council between France and the United States. And the United States believed at the end of the day, France was not probably willing to stand alone. It was a huge gamble.
But President Chirac immediately called Bush's bluff. France would veto America's resolution.
Ma position, c'est que, quelles que soient les circonstances, la France votera non parce qu'elle considère, ce soir, qu'il n'y a pas lieu de faire une guerre pour atteindre l'objectif que nous nous sommes fixés, c'est-à-dire le désarmement de l'Irak.